Shocking truth, Millionaire sees Waitress's necklace at midnight and breaks down in tears. The clock struck 12 as the bar's neon lights flickered like the heartbeat of a restless city. Inside, shadows danced with the flickering candles, casting an eerie glow on the faces of the late-night crowd. The hum of conversation faded as the door swung open. In walked Victor Langley, the millionaire known for his sharp suits and even sharper business tactics. But tonight, something about his gait was different. Attention, a twitch in his jaw as he scanned the room with eyes that seemed to see right through the laughter and clinking glasses. Then he spotted her, a waitress named Lucy, her auburn hair framing her face like a halo against the dim light. She moved gracefully between tables, her hands deftly pouring drinks, but it was the necklace around her neck that caught his breath. It was a simple silver locket, worn and faded, as if it held secrets of its own. Suddenly, all the laughter around turned into a muffled backdrop, and the air thickened with an unspeakable weight. Victor staggered back, his hands pressed against the rough wooden bar for support, eyes wide, pupils dilating like cameras catching a flash of light. People turned to watch. Whispers rippled through the crowd. "What's wrong with him?" someone muttered. But Victor couldn't hear them. All he could see was the locket glinting under the bar lights. Memories surged through his mind like a tide, a mix of pain, nostalgia, and chilling familiarity gripped him tightly. It was as if that locket held a key to a part of himself he thought he had buried long ago. A lump formed in his throat, and with each passing second, it felt heavier, suffocating. Then came the silence. Even the chatter dimmed as Lucy took notice. Her eyes met his, questioning and wary. "Are you okay, sir?" she asked, her voice a mix of concern and innocence. And just like that, all it took was one small gesture from her, and the tension tipped over the edge. Victor's heart raced, he felt raw, exposed. I need to know," he choked out. The words hung in the air, heavy and pulsating. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect." Victor stepped closer, his breath quickening. "Where did you get that locket?" he demanded, urgency spilling over. Lucy hesitated, her heart pounding in sync with his. She had no idea what that necklace held, but the look in his eyes, desperation mixed with fear, sent shivers through her spine. The crowd held their collective breath. "I found it," she finally replied, her voice wavering. "It belonged to my grandmother." But before she could finish, a glass shattered somewhere in the back, a scream split through the silence, and the bar erupted into chaos. Instinct kicked in. Victor grabbed Lucy's wrist, pulling her close. "We need to get out of here," he said, wide-eyed and haunted. The storm outside began to mirror the chaos inside, rain pounding against the windows as if signaling the onset of something darker. Something that seemed to be drawing them together or tearing them apart. As they inched toward the exit, the weight of fate pressed upon them, and a sense of dread mingled with an inexplicable bond between the millionaire and the waitress. What had that locket unleashed? What truths lay buried within? And with that surge of uncertainty, the night promised to unfold its hidden secrets. The crowd surged, panic rising like a wave, shoving people toward the exit. The bar was a whirlwind of fear, the air thick with tension and urgency. Glasses shattered like ice against the concrete, screams mingling with the pounding rain outside. Victor's grip tightened on Lucy's wrist, her pulse racing beneath his fingers. Just as they reached the door, a figure emerged from the darkness, tall, menacing, cloaked in shadows. "Stop!" The voice cut through the chaos, sharp and commanding. Victor's heart dropped as he turned to face the source. A man, rough-looking and hooded, stood at the far end of the bar. His eyes were wild, darting like a cornered animal, full of desperation and something sinister. "Don't let him go," he shouted at the patrons shoving past him. "He knows. He has to pay." Confusion washed over the crowd, casting a chilling pall over the previous chaos. Victor felt Lucy's breath hitch beside him, a quick intake that spoke volumes about the danger that loomed ever closer. "Who is he?" Lucy whispered, her forehead creased in concern. The man took one step forward, fists balled at his sides. "You don't understand. Those things they call for blood. You're mixed up in something you can't escape." His voice rose, growing frantic as he pointed directly at Victor. "You must remember." Victor's pulse raced, each heartbeat echoing in his ears. "Remember what?" he shouted back, a mix of defiance and fear slicing through the tension. "Your past. The locket." The man's words struck like thunder rolling through a storm. Victor's breath caught again at the mention of the locket, the very object that had unraveled his carefully constructed world. What did this stranger know? The door swung open, rain lashed in, soaking the floor and muddling anything that clung to order. In that moment, Victor made a choice. "We need to go now," he urged Lucy, pulling her toward the door, past the shouting patrons frozen in place like deer caught in headlights. The world outside felt different, the storm a curtain that shrouded the night in a liquid cloak. Their hurried breaths mingled with the rain as they sprang into the downpour, hearts racing, hands still intertwined. But it was clear they weren't safe yet. The chaos of the bar faded but did not vanish. "Victor!" Lucy called, her voice strong against the cacophony of rain. "What's happening? Why did he mention the locket?" He hesitated, the weight of the truth heavy on his tongue. The locket connected them, but it was more than just a piece of jewelry, it was a memory, a haunting whisper from his past. I don't know yet," Victor said, fighting to keep the panic from overtaking him. But as they dashed into the shadows of the alley behind the bar, Victor felt a shift of presence drawing closer. The storm flickered dangerously, a flash of lightning illuminating the path ahead. Fear crept back into his bones. "We can't stop," he urged, desperation lacing his voice as they paused to catch their breath. "Victor, I want to know what's happening," Lucy insisted, her eyes wide, reflecting a mix of determination and dread. In that moment, their lives collided with secrets itching to come to light. The locket, the stranger, and now the eternal downpour, they were all entwined in a web spun from lies and hidden truths. A loud crash resonated from the bar, sending vibrations through the ground. They both turned, hearts racing, senses heightened. The mystery was deepening, and danger loomed closer. "Do you think they'll find us?" Lucy whispered, though they both sensed the answer. "No," Victor replied, but doubt gnawed at him. "Not if we keep moving." But where would they go? What awaited them? As they hurried down the alley, the weight of the locket pressed heavy on Victor's mind. He realized it wasn't just his past at stake any longer, it was Lucy's too. They needed answers, and they needed them fast. And the deeper they went into the night, the more he felt the locket's cold grip tightening around them. What awaited them at the end of this storm? Would the truth free them, or would it bind them in ways they could never escape? Victor and Lucy raced down the drenched alley, the world around them a blur of darkness and frantic sounds. The pounding rain seemed alive, drumming against the walls and pulling them deeper into a terror-charged labyrinth. With every step, the stranger's words echoed in Victor's mind, unraveling his already torn nerves. "Blood," he muttered, almost to himself. What did he mean? Lucy breathed heavily beside him, her skin slick with rain. "You have to remember something. It feels like he knows you." "What's this locket about?" He didn't want to answer, every syllable felt like a tether to a past he desperately wanted to forget. But Lucy's eyes pleaded for the truth. The storm mirrored the tumult within him, swirling uncontrollably. I don't know. Victor finally snapped, exasperated. But whatever it is, it's bad. We need to put distance between us and that bar. Suddenly, a sinister growl rippled through the night. It wasn't the thunder, but something far more alive. Victor's heart skipped. They were being hunted. What was that? Lucy gasped, her voice trembling as she turned her head, searching the murky shadows. I don't know, but we can't stop. Victor's voice was tight, a raw panic bubbling beneath the surface. They pressed on, splashing through the puddles, feet slipping on slick terrain. As they rounded a corner, Victor caught a glimpse of the shadow. The hooded stranger was still behind them, but now he had company. A pair of figures, cloaked and sinister, flanked him, their faces obscured, but their intent radiating danger. Victor! We have to hide. Lucy hissed, eyes wide as she pulled him toward a rusted dumpster, shoving herself behind it. The alley was a narrow prison, dark and damp. They crouched in silence, praying for the thunder to mask their ragged breathing. Victor's heart thundered in tandem with the storm. Do you see them? Lucy whispered, glancing around the edge of the dumpster. Victor peered out. The figures had paused, scanning the alley with unnatural precision. We need to find another way out. If they catch us. But before he could finish, the space around them ignited with light. A sudden, blinding flash lit up the alley, illuminating the trio of pursuers. Their eyes glinted like glass, reflecting not just the lightning but a deep-seated hunger. Victor! Lucy whispered, clutching his arm, terror radiating from her. What do we do? He wanted to scream, to tell her it would be okay. But deep down, he sensed the gripping truth: nothing about this night was okay. Just then, the shadowed figures seemed to communicate without words, pointing and gesturing toward them. Victor's stomach dropped. They had been spotted. Run! Victor yelled, grabbing Lucy's hand, yanking her away from their hiding spot. They raced down the alley, heartbeats pounding in synchrony with their footfalls. The storm screamed around them as they skidded into the next street, frantically seeking refuge among the flickering streetlights. There was a momentary pause, silence enveloping them but for their heavy breaths. Then the growling returned, closer, echoing ominously against the whispers of the rain. Panic flooded Victor's veins. He knew they had to find a place to hide, and quickly. He could feel the locket growing warmer against his chest, a terrifying reminder that the past was reaching out to ensnare him. We can't keep running like this, Lucy gasped, her voice laced with desperation. What if it's not safe anywhere? There. Victor pointed to a nearby pawn shop, its windows dull and uninviting. We can hide in there. I just need a moment to think. But as they approached, a sudden crash sounded behind them, metal colliding with the ground. Victor turned instinctively, eyes widening. One of the figures had lunged forward, breaking through the debris of the garbage-strewn alley. He felt Lucy's hand shake in his grip, but they had no choice. They bolted into the shop, slamming the door behind them, hearts racing as they surveyed the dimly lit interior. The smell of dust and old wood mingled with the lingering scent of smoke. What now? Lucy's voice trembled. Slightly, fear creeping back in as they leaned against the door, panting and listening. Victor was panting too, his mind racing. Just give me a second. And that when he spotted it, a glint beneath an old, dusty glass case, something that felt strangely familiar. It looked like the locket. Could it really be? His hands clenched tightly. Lucy, I think I found something we need to see. But just as he reached out for the case, the door rattled violently, the ominous growling growing louder. They were running out of time. Victor! We need to go now. How? He snapped, grappling with the evidence drawing him closer to unraveling everything. Lightning struck outside, illuminating the shop in a flash, revealing shadows creeping by the glass. They were out of options, but one truth echoed in his mind: the locket held answers. And with it, their fates could be sealed. As the figures crashed against the door, Victor felt the weight of destiny crash down upon them. What lay ahead could shatter them or unite them. The choice was fracturing like glass. What truth would they discover when all was revealed? Would it keep them safe, or lead them straight into the storm? With his hand hovering over the glass case, Victor's heart raced, adrenaline surging like electricity coursing through his veins. The ominous growls at the door echoed through the shop, a reminder of the danger closing in. It felt as if time stretched, every second morphed into a lifetime filled with dread. Victor. Lucy's voice trembled, her eyes wide with panic. We can't stay here. If they get in. He turned his focus back to the locket. It was unmistakably the same one, embellished with intricate designs, a faded engraving barely visible under layers of dust. A flood of memories surged within him, jagged pieces of the past slashing at his thoughts. What connection did it have to those men outside? Why was it pulling at him so fiercely? He reached for it. As his fingers grazed the cold glass, the growls intensified, reverberating through the walls, vibrating in his bones. The door rattled again, this time louder, as if the figures outside were expressing their frustration, growing more determined with every passing moment. I need to know, I need to understand. Victor shouted, desperation creeping into his voice. Even as fear clawed at him, hope flickered inside. It was a hope wrapped in long-buried memories and pain. Lucy, if this locket belonged to someone who knew me, it might help us escape. But before he could lift the case, the door splintered, a crack running through the old wood. The sound of the doorframe splintering sent a fresh wave of terror racing down his spine. Hurry! Lucy screamed, yanking him away just as the door burst open, fragments flying across the room. The hooded figures surged into the pawn shop, cloaked in darkness like phantoms rising from nightmares. One of them stepped forward, tall and menacing, glancing toward the abandoned locket with an unsettling awareness. Panic surged within Victor as he yanked Lucy toward the back of the shop, searching for an exit, any escape. Over there. He pointed toward a cramped space behind shelves stacked with dusty items. We can hide. They scrambled to duck behind the shelves, just as the figures moved deeper into the shop, scanning for them with predatory precision. Victor's heart thudded against his ribs, drowning out the growling and the rain outside. What do they want? Lucy whispered, pressing her back against the wooden shelf, her eyes darting dangerously close to tears. I don't know. Victor hissed, feeling a lump in his throat. But they're here for the locket, I can sense it. In the darkness, a flicker of resolve sparked within him. We have to get it. It might be our only way out of this. Are you crazy? Lucy's eyes flared with panic. We can't just expose ourselves. Before he could respond, one of the figures moved closer, their footfalls heavy and deliberate. Victor felt Lucy's breath hitch as the cloaked figure halted, their face hidden in the shadows. The air was thick with tension, the storm's roar quieting for a moment, as if the night itself had paused to witness the drama unfolding. Victor's mind raced. He thought back to the stranger's cryptic words and the pulsing warmth of the locket against his chest. Was it a key to answers long buried, a link to forces that stretched beyond their understanding? As the figure turned slightly, a glint caught Victor's eye, the unmistakable shine of a similar locket hanging around their neck. His stomach twisted. They weren't just after any locket, they were after this one. An inexplicable bond stirred deep within him, an eerie connection that sent chills racing down his spine. Victor, Lucy hissed, her voice breaking through his thoughts. We have to move now. Just as she pushed forward, the figure lunged, and Victor instinctively threw himself in front of Lucy, adrenaline sharpening his instincts. He could feel the air shift, cold and menacing, as he readied himself to confront whatever came next. Step away. He shouted, his voice cracking like thunder. Only silence followed, heavy and oppressive, a pause hanging like a fist, clenched tight with unspoken threats. What were the figures planning? And what connection did they have to him and Lucy? with their fates dangling precariously on the edge of the unknown. The time for answers was slipping away. Suddenly, a blinding flash lit the room, and Victor's breath halted. What truth was about to unfold that could change everything? Would they find the strength they needed to face the darkness, or would it swallow them whole? The blinding flash stained the room with a piercing white light. Victor squeezed his eyes shut, instinctively lifting an arm to shield both himself and Lucy from the intensity. A jarring silence followed, as if time itself held its breath. When he dared to open his eyes again, the shadows had shifted. The men know, these creatures had frozen, their movements halted in the glow. Time warped, leaving Victor aware of every frantic heartbeat in his chest and every shallow breath he could muster. He could hardly focus, but something drew him toward the direction of the locket. It shone like a beacon from the display case, calling him within the chaos. Victor. Lucy's voice trembled, rising above the oppressive tension in the air. She gripped his arm tightly. What's happening? He felt intoxicated by the light, a pulsing energy wrapping around him like a warm embrace. I think it's the locket. His voice bore both wonder and fear, echoing in his own ears. It's reacting to them. As he gazed around, he noticed something grotesque about the figures. Their forms shifted unnaturally, like shadows caught in a breeze. The tension hung thick, crackling as their hooded heads tilted slightly, an unsettling synchronicity in their movements. It was as if they were drawn together by an unseen force, bound by something dark and ancient. With every heartbeat, the light from the locket flickered dimly, almost pleading, and Victor stumbled toward it, leaving the safety of the shelves. He could barely hear Lucy's protests as desperation surged through him. He had to reach it. Victor. Wait. Lucy's plea clutched at his heart. She was right. He could fall right into their trap. But the powerful pull of the locket was undeniable. He felt like a moth, drawn to a flame. The figures shifted, lowering their hoods slightly. Victor's stomach turned, their faces twisted into grotesque mockeries of humanity, pale, hollow, eyes like vacant voids. They opened their mouths, whispers hissing through the air like knives. The words were unintelligible, but the malice behind them was clear, an urgency grounded in necessity, a thirst for something that belonged to them. Get back! Lucy shouted, her voice fierce as she pushed past Victor, positioning herself between him and the advancing shadows. You don't want to hurt him. His heart sank, realizing how reckless he was being. Yet he couldn't step back. Something was awakening inside of him, a memory he couldn't grasp yet felt deep within. With trembling hands, he reached for the locket's glass case. A shattering crack echoed through the room as he pried open the latch. Glass crumbled at his feet, a cascade of shards spiraling like stars falling from the night sky. As he pulled the locket from its resting place, a raw energy surged through him, coursing like fire in his veins. The shadows halted abruptly, whispers faltering, replaced by what seemed to be fear. Victor's heart raced. He understood this was the catalyst. This was their link to him. He held the locket aloft, the intricate designs shimmering in the dim light. What do you want with this? Victor called out, his voice steadying with assurance, a barrier born of sudden knowledge. What do you really want? The cloaked figures recoiled, the leering faces shifting into a frown. Time trickled slowly again as a chilling wind swept through the shop. Victor could see the hunger in their empty eyes, a longing sharpened by desperation. The locket pulsed in his hand, vibrating with energy only he could understand. He must know, one of the figures rasped, the voice breaking through the tension. The words hung dense in the air, pregnant with revelation. Victor's breath caught. What did that mean? His heart thundered. Were they implying that he held not just a simple object, but a secret bound to a past he had yet to unravel? Before he could respond, an unexpected presence surged into the room, a figure, draped in light, materializing with a suddenness that startled him. The embodiment of calm amidst chaos stood there, and Victor squinted into the glow, realizing the figure was staring directly at him. Victor, it's time, the voice echoed, smooth as silk yet firm as stone. What was happening? Who was this new arrival? The questions flooded through Victor's mind, each one weaving into the tapestry of fear and confusion wrapping around him. The cloaked figures shrieked as if the light was burning them. They recoiled, hunching low, their faces twisting in terror. "Stop!" Victor commanded, the locket still raised in his hand, the only thing tethering him to calm amidst the storm, but whether it was a blessing or a curse, everything was about to change. As he prepared to confront the truth, the air thickened with anticipation. Answers were about to unravel, but would the revelations bring clarity or chaos? With one more glance back at Lucy, Victor steeled himself. He could not turn away now. He was ready for the truth, whatever it might be. And just as he felt the warmth of the light garner around him, darkness pressed ever closer. What terrifying truth would unfold as the shadows closed in? The light pulsed like a heartbeat, surrounding Victor and Lucy in a cocoon of warmth that felt both entirely safe and incredibly dangerous. The cloaked figures writhed at the edges of the brightness, their voices rising in a cacophony of hisses, whispers laced with an edge of sorrow and fury. "Victor, focus," Lucy urged, eyes darting between him and the ominous forms. "We don't know what they want." Her grip on his arm tightened, knuckles pale with fear. The figure cloaked in light stepped forward, calming, crystalline. It seemed to absorb the chaos, emanating a feeling of safety, yet the shadows buzzed angrily as if sensing a challenge. "To understand the locket, you must first confront the past," it said, voice resonant, echoing off the walls of the shop. "What do you mean?" Victor's voice emerged breathy, shaky like autumn leaves caught in a gust. "What past?" The luminous figure held its hand out, and a vision exploded around Victor, fragments of memories swirling like colors in a storm. He saw a child standing in a field, laughter ringing bright as sunlight graced golden wheat. The laughter faded, replaced by a twisted face that resembled his own, eyes ablaze with fury. It all unraveled in seconds that felt like hours. Suddenly, Victor staggered back, clutching his head. "No, no, not this." It was as if every nerve in his body screamed in protest. The truth tried to tear him apart, clawing at something dark buried deep within. The figures surged closer, mouths moving as they hissed in unison. Their voices melded into a dreadful soup of whispers. "The bloodline, the sacrifice, she is the key." "Stop!" Lucy shouted again, stepping forward, blocking Victor from the throbbing dark. "You're lying. He doesn't owe you anything." But Victor's mind raced. He couldn't deny the connection. Something about the locket fused with the remnants of memories flooded with fear and despair pulled him in, constricting his throat. He could barely breathe. "Victor!" Her voice cut through the haze, grounding him momentarily. "Don't let them touch you. We can leave." "No," he gasped, his heartbeat drumming a frantic rhythm against his rib cage. "We can't just run. They're here because of me." The realization crashed down upon him like a tidal wave, revealing a churning well of truth hidden beneath denial. "I need to know what I've done." The shadowy figures advanced, and at that moment, Victor felt the locket vibrate against his chest, an echo of memories and power intertwining. He stared at it, then at Lucy. "Stay back, Lucy. I have to confront it. We have to confront it." Tension buzzed in the air, raw and electric. He stepped closer to the light being, which offered him an outstretched hand. The cloaked entities hissed, panicked. They were losing their grip on him. He could see it in their vacant eyes scorching with chaos. Victor's breath came shallower now, piecing together a purpose. "What must I learn?" "Embrace it," the glowing figure urged. "The locket will show you the truth. There is light in the darkness. You must face your lineage, the choice that binds you." The shadows lurched forward, anger flaring, and he felt the warmth of Lucy's hand slip away. "No!" He cried out, panic consuming him. The cloaked figure surged as he reached for the luminous emanation. Time shattered as he grasped the figure's hand, the locket glowing fiercely in response. A searing light engulfed him, and he pulled his mind away from the world, plunging into a whirlwind of visions filled with cruelty, regret, and redemption, and then came clarity, a singular moment of frozen stillness, where everything felt poised on a knife's edge. "It's his truth!" one of the shadows exclaimed, but what that truth was, Victor could only sense but not grasp. As the chaos swirled around him, the fabric of reality quivered, threatening to snap. Before he could unravel the weight of that truth, light and shadow clashed violently, echoing in a deafening roar. What horrifying reality would Victor face next, and what consequences would the locket unleash? The world around Victor blurred, stretched thin like a spider's silk caught in a storm. He felt the pulse of the locket on his chest, each thrum sending shockwaves through his body. Faces flickered before him, flashes of joy morphing into screams of anguish. The sweet laughter from earlier twisted into cries that wrenched at his heart. Suddenly, he was no longer in the shop. He stood in a vast, desolate expanse where shadows loomed tall, swallowing the light that struggled to reach him. The cloaked figures moved behind him like thunderclouds, their breath heavy and cold. Their whispers were now distinct, like a chorus of accusations that echoed in the emptiness. The burden of choice, they hissed, the blood, the pain. Victor turned, frantically searching for Lucy. Lucy! But only silence answered, a suffocating void that danced around him. The light from the figure flickered like a dying flame, but he bolstered the courage to step forward into the darkness. They wanted him to run, to hide from his truth, but he would not grant them that satisfaction. As he focused, another memory unfurled in his mind, a house shrouded in smoke, shrieks puncturing the night. He was a boy again, watching from a window as flames devoured his home. The panic gripped him tighter now, and he gasped, feeling the remnants of that fear rise like bile. "Why did you let this happen?" he shouted, heart pounding in rhythm with the chaos surrounding him. "I wasn't even there. I didn't choose this. Your lineage is the key. Your choices echo through time," the luminous figure said gently, now standing right beside him, urging him to understand. "You cannot escape what lies within." Victor clenched his fists, the guilt tearing through him, unraveling the facade he had built to protect himself. That moment, abandoning everything he knew, everything he loved, it was the seed of his suffering. As the memories flooded, a new vision emerged, a woman silhouetted against the flames, her features obscured but unmistakably familiar. "Mother," he breathed, realization crashing down on him. She had haunted him in dreams, in fleeting glimpses during quiet moments. She was lost, a casualty of choices made long before he drew breath. But there was something more. The locket around his neck was not merely an heirloom, it was an anchor, tethering him to the truth. The shadows lunged violently, driving him backwards, their mouths snapping ominously. "Accept the sacrifice. You are not worthy of her," they yelled, their voices a torrent. He staggered but steadied himself, feeling the warmth of the luminous figure wrap around him like an embrace. "I have to face this," Victor said, his voice steadying. "Whatever it is, I won't run anymore." He looked back at the figure, the light brimming with hope. "If I'm meant to solve this, then I need her back. I need to know." The figure nodded. "To retrieve your mother is to accept the darkness within. You must choose to live in the light." With that last statement, the locket glowed brighter than he thought possible, spilling radiant light over the shadows like the first light of dawn. But the shadows snarled, howling in protest. The voice of the dark chorus rumbled through the air. "You cannot reverse fate." Victor felt the ground beneath him shift, felt realities colliding. "I am Victor," he shouted back, defiance roaring out of him. "I will forge my fate." In that moment, the shadows fell back, their anger morphing into something unrecognizable. There was power in him now, an electric force. The locket vibrated, pulling memories toward the surface, clawing at truths long buried. The world twisted again, and he was hurtling toward another vision, one that would unravel everything he'd ever known. But what awaited him in that new reality? What was the cost of the truth he desperately sought? Victor stumbled as the world righted itself, the darkness evaporating to reveal a scene steeped in vivid, stinging color. He was no longer alone in the desolate expanse. Instead, he stood in front of a sprawling mansion, its opulent facade illuminated by the glow of the setting sun. But it wasn't the lavishness that gripped him, it was the heaviness of what lay beneath. Whispers still curled around him, but now they morphed into a symphony of laughter and chatter, echoing from the mansion's grand open doors. Each sound pulled him closer, an almost magnetic force he couldn't resist. Heart pounding, he took a cautious step forward, the weight of his childhood home still heavy in his chest. Inside, people mingled, their faces bright with joy as they celebrated a distant echo of a life he never knew but craved desperately. High spirits filled the air along with the clink of glasses and the sweet notes of a live band. Yet within that celebration, a familiar tug gripped his soul. "Victor," a voice called out, and he turned, startled. It felt like a jolt of electricity. There she was, a woman with kind eyes, cascading brown hair, and the softest smile he could remember. It was his mother. "Mama!" he exclaimed, rushing towards her, but she only glanced over her shoulder, an expression of confusion crossing her face. "Who are you?" she asked softly, her voice crackling, like an old radio struggling to tune in. Victor felt as if the ground beneath him had shifted again, the world dimming just slightly. "It's me. It's Victor." But his voice faltered, lost in the laughter that erupted around them. "Mom, please," he urged, desperation coating his words. She turned back to the crowd, oblivious to his presence, her laughter mingling with theirs, floating away on the currents of happiness. "This is how it should be," he whispered, clenching the locket as painful waves battered his heart. Suddenly, shadows crept into the doorway, dark tendrils stretching across the wooden floor. The light of the chandelier flickered, casting ominous shapes that danced along the walls. The cheerful chatter morphed into a cacophony of cries, twisting his mother's joyful laughter into something sinister. "Victor!" Slashes of rage surged through the crowd, faces morphing into shadows, gnashing at him. "You shouldn't be here. Your existence taints this happiness. Get away from her!" He screamed again, feeling the locket's warmth intensify against his chest. "Stop!" Desperation clawing at his throat, he pushed through the throng, reaching for his mother. Their eyes locked, and for a fleeting moment, he saw the recognition flicker. There was fear in her gaze, confusion shifting to horror. "Why won't you let me go?" she cried, turning her back on him. Victor lunged forward, but the shadows whipped around him again, and the laughter faded into harsh whispers. "Dim your light, Victor," they hissed, "stay in the dark." He faltered, caught between two worlds, the warmth of his mother's love and the suffocating grip of the shadows. With a sudden cry, Victor felt a surge of determination surging through him. "No! I will fight for you." The locket pulsed fiercely, radiating light to chop through the encroaching darkness. Suddenly, a door swung open, revealing a swirling spiral of color and chaos, a portal. It beckoned him, a wheel of fortune spinning with promise and peril. "Victor, don't!" His mother's voice pierced through the chaos, but her plea was drowned out by the shadow's wails. He reached out, teetering on the brink of an uncharted destiny, forcing himself to make a choice. Would he plunge into the unknown to reclaim the love stolen from him, or would he surrender to the darkness overpowering him? Abruptly, he felt the ground shift again, twisting like a roller coaster, and he fell into the vortex, heart racing, grasping for clarity in the storm. Where would he land? What truths lay in wait? Would he uncover the love he once lost or be swallowed whole by the engulfing shadows? Victor spiraled through the chaotic void, colors flashing and swirling around him like a tempest of emotions. The shadows clawed at him, whispering dark secrets and fears that sliced through his resolve. He grasped the locket tightly, as if it could shield him from the horror that closed in. His heart raced as he felt his body tugged away from one reality, gasping for breath as he glimpsed shifting shapes in the corners of his vision. Then, with a sudden rush, the colors faded, and he tumbled onto hard ground. Blinking against the brightness, he found himself in a different space, an expansive chamber adorned with velvet drapes and polished marble floors. The air was still, heavy with an uncomfortable silence, and a faint scent of burnt candles lingered. Victor pushed himself to his feet. The grandness of the room was intimidating, but there was an unsettling quality that gnawed at him. Here, the shadows felt less like a presence and more like a memory, lurking in corners he couldn't quite see. He was a stranger here, and the remnants of laughter from the mansion felt like echoes from a time he desperately wanted to reach. Tear through the veil, a voice beckoned, low and almost melodic, sending shivers down his spine. His surroundings shifted again, dark shapes moved in the periphery, the walls bending like a distorted dreamscape. Victor's instincts screamed at him. He turned sharply, searching for the source of the voice. "Who's there?" he shouted, the tremor in his tone betraying his confidence. "I am what you fear and desire," the voice whispered, slithering through the air like smoke. The shadows began to solidify, revealing hazy figures of people he recognized, fragments of faces he had loved, lost, and grieved over the years. Each figure flickered, teetering on the edge of reality. His heart lurched at the sight of them. "This can't be happening. Do you want to know the truth?" the voice taunted. "Your mother is lost not due to shadows, but by the confinement of her own making." "Stop!" Victor yelled, but he felt himself drawn into a memory not his own, but one belonging to the blurred figure of his mother. The scene unfolded like a fading photograph, revealing a moment of despair. She stood sobbing, clutching the very locket he now wore, fingers trembling. Desperation seeped into her gaze, and whispers of regret surrounded her. "You were meant to be my light," she had murmured, shadows creeping in, soaking up the brightness of her spirit. Victor staggered backwards, anguish clawing at his chest. No. This wasn't the truth he wanted. "Mom, please. Fight it. You don't have to stay in the dark." "Ah, but she relishes it," the voice chimed, delighting in the misery Victor was forced to confront. "She chose the shadows over you, Victor. And with each step you take into the light, you drift further from her warmth." A dull pain spread through him, radiating from the locket. "That can't be true," he choked out, tears blurring his vision. "I refuse to let go." The chamber twisted violently, and light erupted as the shadows morphed into tendrils, wrapping around his arms and legs, anchoring him to this nightmarish landscape. Panic shot through him as he fought against the grasp. "Know this, Victor," the voice hissed, "the journey ahead will test the very fabric of your heart. Are you willing to embrace the truth, no matter how dark?" He inhaled sharply, determination rising within him like a phoenix from ashes. "I'll embrace it. I won't settle for despair." With a final surge of energy, he yanked free from the shadow's grip. The chamber erupted in swirling light, and before him, another portal flickered, inviting, threatening, and charged with energy. As he leaped, the murmurs rose to a roar, the wall of reality collapsing behind him. Would he plunge into darkness, find unresolved truths, or unveil a secret that could shatter his very existence? Victor's breath quickened. What awaited him on the other side could change everything. But just as the light enveloped him once more, a piercing scream echoed, a familiar sound that shattered the rippling calm. Between dimensions. It was his mother. Victor, no, and then nothing. The light swallowed him whole. The light faded, and Victor found himself standing in a familiar place, the old house he had loved and lost. It was as if time had unraveled and rewound, bringing him back to the moment before everything had gone wrong. But now, he was different. The weight of the locket against his chest pulsed with energy, reminding him of the pain that had forged him into the man he was now. The walls vibrated with muffled conversations, sounds of laughter and warmth flooding through the air like a forgotten melody. Victor stepped forward, his heart racing as he moved through the threshold. "Mom?" he called, voice trembling, the word barely a whisper, but it carried the weight of a lifetime. No answer. He pushed deeper into the warm glow of the living room, where happy pictures lined the walls, family gatherings, bright smiles frozen in time. A pang of longing hit him hard, twisting his stomach. He needed to confront her, but part of him feared what he might discover. Suddenly, Victor felt it. A cold breeze swept through, and the shadows that had haunted him flickered at the periphery, inching closer, whispering his weakness. "You're not worthy," a voice taunted, low and menacing. "You tread too closely to your own destruction. Shut up," he yelled, a sudden burst of defiance rising within him. "This is my moment, not yours." In the middle of the room stood his mother. She looked just as he remembered, her hair cascading around her, eyes shimmering with a warmth that felt distant yet painfully familiar. At that moment, all the pieces fell into place. "Mom, please," Victor breathed. "I found the locket. I need you to remember. We can be a family again." "Who are you?" she asked, her voice serene but edged with confusion. "Why are you here?" His heart fell. She didn't remember him. "I'm Victor," he said strongly. "Your son. I've come to bring you back. This is not where you belong." The shadows crawled closer, invading the edges of reality, feeding on her uncertainty. "You see?" they hissed. "She belongs to the darkness, Victor. She chose it. Mom, you don't have to listen to them," he urged desperately, stepping forward. "You can break free. You just have to choose." "Victor," she faltered, a flicker of recognition sparking in her eyes. "My Victor." The shadows stirred violently, swirling around Victor, coaxing his mother back into the darkness with their whispers. "She belongs with us. Let her go, Victor. Accept your fate." "No!" he shouted, arms raised as the light from the locket grew brighter, pushing against the encroaching shadows. "I refuse to let you take her again." Lightning crashed outside as the power of the locket surged through him, anchoring him to the truth. In that moment, he connected not just with her but with every soul the shadows had consumed. "Mom!" he cried out. "You have the strength to step into the light. Remember the love. Remember me." As if a dam had broken, memories flooded back to her, flashes of childhood laughter, whispers of bedtime stories, the feel of her arms cradling him in safety. Recognition washed through her features, breaking the icy grip the darkness had on her. "Victor!" she gasped, tears streaming from her eyes. "I need you." "Then take my hand," he shouted, extending his arm towards her. With a fierce determination, she took a step, and as their fingers interlocked, light erupted, casting the shadows back in a blaze of pure energy. The darkness shrieked, pulling away like mist under sunlight, its hold broken. Mother and son stood radiating light, their connection as unbreakable as steel. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, giving voice to the years of regret and pain. "I was lost, but I've found you." "As long as we stand together," Victor replied, his voice steady with newfound resolve, "we will break through everything that seeks to harm us." The storm outside calmed, the shadows dwindling to nothing, retreating into the corners of existence as the light enveloped them. Together, they stepped forward, leaving behind the haunting remnants of pain that once defined their lives. As they emerged into the dawn, the world glistened like it had been reborn. Hope radiated in the colors of the morning, illuminating the path ahead. Victor looked at his mother, relief flooding through him as they breathed in the fresh, clean air. "Together, we'll create new memories," he promised. And as they walked into the embrace of the sunrise, arms linked, Victor knew they had conquered the darkness. They would carry the weight of their past, but they were free. They would rebuild their lives, forge a new path, and nothing could break their bond again. The shadows were defeated, their whispers faded into the distance. They could finally live together. Thank you for being part of this epic journey with us. Don't forget to subscribe immediately to our channel so you don't miss next week's exclusive stories that will drive you wild. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and support our work. And flood the comments section below with your reactions and theories about Victor's incredible journey. Share this video with at least 5 friends who you think need to experience this conclusion. Don't wait any longer. Spread the word, and let us keep building this amazing community together.